Just as an addendum to the last video I did on using the string, you can also do the same thing on the wobble board. When you're using the wobble board though, you want to try to position it where you're close enough to make contact with the string. So as you're going back and forth, you got kind of a little bit of play. You don't want to be so far away that you feel like you're leaning, but you don't want to be so close per se that you kind of can't get that feel of playing in between. And the idea of doing this on the wobble board is because the board is specifically designed to deliberately throw your balance off. You want to try to control your body as much as possible and maintain control over your body as you're going back and forth. If I feel for some reason I'm going to fall, I just step off and get right back on. The reason you want to do that, obviously you don't want to fall off the board, but if you feel like you're going to fall, you want to get off the board as quickly as possible, recover as quickly, and get back on the board. What that's teaching you is how should you lose balance to recover as quickly as possible and get back into the fight. It's training you on a neurological level to be able to do that, because let's face it, in a real situation, you don't get to fight on this nice, flat, smooth surface like I got here. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. The sidewalk's uneven because we don't seem to know how to build sidewalks anymore. You know, it could be, you know, garbage, broken glass, liquid, whatever the case may be. So you can't set it up in your mind that you're always going to have the perfect condition. Thus the importance of using these different training aids. So as I'm doing this, if I feel like, as I'm going back and forth, like I'm going to lose balance, if I really feel like I'm going to fall, rather than waiting until I get to the point where my body panics because it doesn't want to fall, I just step off the board. But as I step off the board, I'll see if I can illustrate this. If I step off the board, I try to quickly get back on. The other thing I try to do is, as I'm working with the string or any other thing, when I'm working on the wobble board, I try not to look at the board. You know, Grandmaster Perkins had a great way of saying this when he used to put me on the ladder or the wobble boards, and that is, or when he put me on the rock, you know, with my back facing, you know, the open space, and that is, don't think of it as you standing on the board. You know, a little Zen lesson from him. You know, think of it as, this is the ground I gotta fight on. That the ground I gotta fight on, for whatever reason, it's uneven, I gotta figure it out. And if you think of it kind of as, this is just the ground I gotta deal with, I gotta deal with it. What happens is, you stop trying to be so perfect on the board, and now you're focused on the skill that you're trying to develop, which inevitably leads to your ability to all of a sudden, after playing around with it, you have like 15 skills that you never had before. The thing I'm going to also say again, because I want to make sure I'm clear about this stuff with these training aids or whenever you're doing these exercises, is focus on the process and the ability to correct yourself. Focus on the skill you're trying to develop. The end result will come. And the reason is if you focus too much on the end result, you're missing all the things that are going on in between that, you know, you need to learn how to correct. You know, I've been doing this for a very long time. I can tell you now, it doesn't mean that as I'm doing this stuff, I never lose my balance, I never make mistakes. No. In fact, the difference is when I make a mistake, I look at it as, okay, I see what I did there, so now I know how to correct it. It's like Musashi said, if you know one thing, you know 10,000. If I know the mistake I made and I know how it's supposed to be, I now know 10,000 ways I can probably fix the problem because I know what the problem is. So it's the same thing. So as I'm going back and forth, having fun with this, and that's the other thing too, you want to have fun. I always have fun. I never, when I'm working out and doing these things, am not ever having fun. Because when you make it so onerous that it's like, you know, the world's going to come to an end if you don't do it perfectly, you end up actually sabotaging your training because now you're not making it fun and you're less likely to want to have fun with it and do it on a consistent basis and enjoy it. So if you're using the board, you know, you want to practice, almost fell right there. You want to practice moving with it, feeling all these different positions and being creative. Don't be afraid to be creative because you don't know what you don't know and you won't know until you know it. And if you're not trying to be creative, you don't know how far you can take something. And I've been doing this for a very long time, and I can tell you, I still to this day, because people ask me, I still to this day have epiphanies of things I couldn't do before, just simply because until I developed a certain requisite skill, I just couldn't do it. You know, it's like lifting weights. You know, you start off, maybe you're doing 100 pounds, 135 pounds, right? And your goal is to bench press 300 pounds. Well, there's a process of how to get there. But what you'll find is once you get to that goal, you know, you're going to realize there's a lot more to it. Because in fact, that before you got to that goal, you know, you didn't know whether or not you could do it. That's why you had to work through it. So it's the same thing. You know, as I'm being creative, I don't know what I can do until I do it. And by the way, with the creativity, just understand that one of the problems with creativity is it comes literally out of the ether. And so it doesn't exist until the moment it happens, right? Otherwise, it's not creative. So just keep in mind as you're having fun doing this stuff, doing whatever, throwing strikes, whatever you're going to do, just keep in mind that you want to be as free as possible because you're just trying to develop yourself on that neurological level so that when you're in the middle of the melee, whatever you got to do, the last thing you have to worry about is thinking about what to do with your body. Hopefully this helps some folks. Hopefully I covered this well enough with the wobble board so that you kind of get an idea of how you can practice this. If you don't have a wobble board, just get any kind of board or get something that throws your balance off and you can practice it the same way. I would stay away from the crazy stuff I see in gyms where people are standing on medicine balls and they're trying to do balance stuff and then they wonder why. You know, they slip and fall and almost, you know, crack their skulls open. Stay away from that. It's just stupid.